Uh, okay, so we're in the month of Shvat, and so I put up that little video while I was on my porch in Kerem talking about the month of Shvat. So just to recap, if you didn't see that little video, um, one of the main aspects of Shvat is the integrating of the Ruchnius and the Gashmius. So the body part of Shvat is the stomach, which is eating, digesting, integrating what we consume. It's connected to Eitz Hadas, the Chet of Eitz Hadas, and the avoda of Shvat, the action of Shvat is eating, and we make a tikkun on eating, especially throughout the whole month. The consciousness is eating and eating correctly and eating with awareness and saying brachot and all of that. And then whenever we have a holiday, and I've said this many times before, the holiday is usually the 15th day of the month. So the month starts on Aleph and it sort of builds up. And by the time it's 15, it's the climax of the energies of that month. And then the month wanes like the moon. The moon's full on the 15th of the month, and then the moon gets smaller. So the energy of Shvat comes to its climax with the holiday of Tu B'Shvat. So next Wednesday, please God, we're going to have our live Tu B'Shvat party. And the vote of Tu B'Shvat is specifically the tikkun of eating. But the whole month is the tikkun of eating because it's this integrating of Ruchnius and Gashmius. So today is the 8th of Shvat. And Shvat is also the month in which the Rebbe took on the Nasius. The Rebbe became our Rebbe. The previous Rebbe passed away on the 10th of Shvat, which the 10th of Shvat is going to be, the 10th of Shvat is going to be on Shabbos. So
Shabbos, yeah.
in 1950, the Frierdiker Rebbe passed away. And in 1951, our Rebbe Menachem Mendel took over. So it's a big day in Chabad, and it's a celebration of the Rebbe's leadership, which, of course, the Rebbe also was a big integrationalist, I would say, if you could say that. So looking at the Hayom Yoms, talking about integration, just a little bit of a background about the Alter Rebbe. Says when the Alter Rebbe was 9 years old, he studied geometry and astronomy. And at 10 years old, he composed a calendar for 15 years. And when he was 12 years old, it happened that he lectured publicly on the Rambam's laws of Kiddush HaChodesh, the sanctification of the new moon. So the preeminent Torah scholars who were present at that time in the study hall were utterly overwhelmed. So A, he was very learned, B, he was very brilliant, and C, he was interested in geometry and astronomy and created a calendar. So that's very interesting background information on the Alter Rebbe. So also we have Yud Shvat, and then the 22nd of Shvat is the Rebbe's wife's Yortzeit. So there are those ideas connected, just a little bit about Shvat. Also, there's a difference of opinion which Shevet is connected to Shvat, but one of the opinions is it's Yosef. We know Yosef was definitely a master of integrating. The other option, the other opinion is that it was Asher. And Asher is the person who was blessed with a lot of oil, olive trees in his territory, and all the teachings about olive trees and olive oil, and olive oil being a symbol of Chassidus and deep Torah insights. And
They were the tribe that they were the last ones, and they would like pick up things, right, that people
oh, that
lost.
was Dan. That was the tribe of
Oh,
Dan,
Don, I'm sorry. Okay.
not Asher. Okay, so let's move into the Parsha, and just before we leave the Hayom Yoms completely, on Sunday, the Hayom Yom was talking about Mitzrayim and saying that Mitzrayim, as we know, expresses constriction and limitation. So the spiritual Egyptian exile is the animal souls restricting and concealing the godly soul so severely that the godly soul is so compressed that it is diminished and obscured. So the animal soul and all of its concerns and all of its worries and all of its priorities take up so much space in the consciousness of the person that they kind of, it doesn't leave space for anything else. Hi, sorry, nice to see you. So if the animal soul is putting its attention on everything gashmistic and everything non-spiritual, then the godly soul has very little space to express itself. So that's really what Egypt is all about. So leaving Egypt is the removal of the constriction and the bounds. In other words, the intellect in the brain illuminates the heart, bringing about fine character traits translated into actual practice. So if we think of Yetziat Mitzrayim, and you think of a room, and in that room, let's say the room is very dark, and then you have a switch, and it's like a dimmer switch, and you start turning on the light, and you just get the light going brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter until the room is fully bright. That's really what the process is of going out of Mitzrayim. You have your consciousness and your head and your priorities and your behavior very preoccupied with things that are not fully in alignment with your deepest self and your soul and your neshama and Torah and Hashem. And then as you get more and more connected to light, to truth, and to Hashem, it's like you're putting on the light, and the light gets bright and bright and bright until your whole reality is one where you in sync with Hashem, with Torah. Your consciousness is connected to that. And then lo and behold, you outside of the constraints of Mitzrayim. So that's where we're aiming, and that's what we're going to look at today in this Parsha today of Beshallach, because Beshallach is this incredible Parsha where we actually get out. And how do we get out? And it turns out that Paro has to actually say, get out. That when it's time for the Yidden to go, the words of the Parsha start with Paro actually sending the Yidden out. So if we're going to share the screen, we're going to share the screen and come into the beginning of today's Parsha.
How come Paro had to send the people out? I mean, you normally, hey, we did it, we're out of here. I mean, God could have easily, just said, all right, we did it, let's go. Why did he have to send them out?
Well, I think that it's it says my screen sharing is paused, but can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting because you'd think that when it was time to go, all the Yidden would just
Right.
go and be ready. I did actually read about that, and I don't remember the answer. I have to confess that I don't remember the answer. If everybody was ready to go, or some people needed that actual.
That makes
Remember,
sense.
4/5 of them never left.
Right.
4/5 of them, so that's like almost like 90% or 85, whatever percent. So that gives you the answer right there.
Right. It says the word Beshallach implies that the Jews were unwilling to leave and had to be forcefully expelled. Now it says it's hard to imagine that this could be the theme of the Parsha, and it seems to be a derogatory comment on the state of the Jewish people at that time. And it even seems strange that Pharaoh would have to send the people out. Why would any Jew not wish to leave Egypt when they were subjected to such oppressive slavery? Moshe had promised them that the Exodus would lead them to be chosen by Hashem as his nation and given the Torah at Mount Sinai. That in turn would be the precursor to their entry to the promised land. Who would not jump at such an opportunity? Why then did Paro have to send them out? And the answer is that there were two dimensions of the Jews' desire to leave Egypt. On the one hand, they were eager to leave and to leave the oppression of exile, as we said. And this desire, genuine as it was simply a result of the situation and the opportunities available to them. It was a rational desire that was dictated by logic. But by the way, I just want to, before I carry on reading, I just want to remind you that in the last time we had the class, we were talking about people in our generation, people around us, people that we know doing things and seeming to have priorities that are inconceivable to us. And we say to ourselves, how come? How come they're so blind? How come they don't see? How come they still entrenched in wrong thinking? And then we just can't believe it. And it's almost like there's like Velcro sticking people down to, incorrect or unenlightened ways of being and ways of thinking. So how can that possibly be? And we see that it actually is. So just remember that we spoke about that in terms of our generation and our time. So let me just carry on reading. But the moment they were freed, they experienced an altogether different type of desire to leave. The minute they breathed the fresh air of freedom, there was a profound contrast between the enslavement to Egyptian materialism and the freedom from it, which was given to them and afforded by the godly life. The intensity of their desire to leave immediately rose far above what it had been when their desire was dictated by logic. So anyway, this is getting, it gets a little complicated, but it says that their desire to leave shrunk to the equivalence of a forced expulsion. So the Rebbe is saying that that compared to how we experienced our yearning for freedom once we were no longer freed, once we were no longer shackled, you can't even compare the two different yearnings for freedom. That in a way, while they were there, they didn't have the capacity to truly yearn for the freedom in the way that they could yearn for it once or appreciate it once they were out of there. But I don't actually have a very good explanation right now to
No,
why.
that makes sense. I got it. I think that's a good, I think that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, you want to explain it to me?
I mean, I think basically yeah, from what it's almost like, they were so entrenched. Sometimes it's very hard for the mind to catch up to what the actuality is. Like, you could take the Jews out of Egypt, but it's very hard maybe to take Egypt out of the Jews.
Yes.
So they were so entrenched, even seeing everything, it takes a while for the mind to really go, hey, I might really be free. I could really get this going, until maybe also they were expelled, because this way they wouldn't have time to think about it again. And now they're saying, and I was reading in a book like called The Last Slave. It was really an incredible book. And they were vacillating also because, they had a year, they were planting, they were having a good time, blah, blah. Wow, this is great now. Why should we leave? And they were, they had, forces doing these things too. And that's why I think he had to expel them and get out, because he's like, you know what? I can't have you here. Go. And this way they had no time to think about it. And that was it. And that's why he had to expel them.
I mean, if you think about the story, you can appreciate how hard it is for people to get out of their limitations. That
Mhm.
actually, even in the story when they were treated so badly, how hard it was
Right.
to
Mhm.
actually get out and
And things were going good, so
um
hey, why
right.
leave?
I'm in,
Again.
but my picture's not coming back. Okay. So, all right, thank you.
Also, you know what? I know this sounds like a weird thing to say, but I'm thinking of when people are used to their surroundings for so long, to just any type of change is
Mhm.
an uncomfortable thing. And I saw this movie that it was so bizarre, but it was a very good movie. But the problem was is that when these this one older man was released from the prison,
The
he
Shawshank Redemption.
how'd you guess? Sandra,
As soon as you said, I've seen that movie 100 times. It's one of my
it's
favorite movies.
amazing, amazing movie. So
Mm-hmm.
the sad thing is, this older man was there so long. He was
Mm-hmm.
and he left, and he couldn't adjust to life on the
Mm-hmm.
outside. You know, he wasn't used to like cars and things like that. And then he hung himself. It was like it's so
Mm-hmm.
sad.
Yeah.
He just couldn't take it.
His
Like
story was actually
wanted to be
based,
back with his friends and his
So
right. He was
I think
important in there.
it's a
yeah.
it's very important for us, and thank you for bringing all of that to understand that when we learn this Torah, and in a way we could think they were slaved, Moshe came, there were plagues, and they just went out, and it was all like hunky-dory and simple. And then when you kind of put attention to it, you realize that for people, and really this is how it is with people in our life, and how it is with us, and how hard it is for people to change. And that famous thing from the Rambam, if you can change one midah in your life, if you can, for us to meaningfully change ourselves and meaningfully let go of the places where we restricted, and meaningfully really move into new realities. So to appreciate the difficulty and the fact that it's not automatic. So it's actually helpful for us to start off the Parsha and to pay attention to this fact that despite everything, how hard it is for us to extricate ourselves. So, okay, so we're going to look inside and then extrapolate on a few different parts. So, Beshallach, v'yehi Beshallach Paro et ha'am. So Paro had to send the people out. Hashem, and then it says Hashem didn't lead them via Plishtia because it was nearby, because Hashem said the people may have a change of heart when they see war and return to Egypt. So even the way that they're being led out of Mitzrayim is so that they shouldn't change their mind and turn around and want to go back. So definitely we're dealing with ambivalence. Hi, Susan, nice to see you. So
Mhm.
Hashem led them via the desert road towards the Yam Suf, and the Bnei Israel were armed when they went up. So they were ready to do battle if they needed to do battle. Now it says here, Moshe took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had bound the sons of Israel by an oath that they should bind their descendants, saying, you will surely, Hashem will remember you, and please take my bones. So in the commentaries, they tell us that all of the bones of all of the Shvatim, the sons of Yisrael, of Yaakov, were taken. They didn't leave any, but they only speak about Yosef. And then when we look at the Hebrew, it says, V'yikach Moshe et atzmot. The word for bones is atzmot. The word for one bone is etzem. Etzem in Hebrew, does anybody know what etzem in Hebrew actually means? It means essence. The bones of a person are the essence of a person. And the Meforshim say that Moshe took the bones of Yosef. It's also stressing that he took the energy, the koach, the spirit, so to say, of Yosef together with them when they left. That the spirit of Yosef was like there supporting them in their journey. That's also the intention of he took the bones of Yosef. And they moved from Sukkot and encamped at Etem at the edge of the desert. And then this beautiful thing about how they were guided in the day by a pillar of cloud to guide them along the way, and by night by a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel day and night. So hang on, I'm just gonna, yeah, so that they could travel day and night. Okay, so he didn't remove the pillar of cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from in front of the people. And then there's this interesting thing that they're moving, and if you look at, if you know the map, there's the Yam Suf here, and they started off in Mitzrayim on the side, and they didn't go directly. They went up and over around, and they got all the way around, and then they turned back and they went back as if they were returning, as if they had changed their mind and they were coming back. And the Meforshim are trying to figure out why this complicated way of going and coming and changing direction. And the Meforshim say that Hashem wanted to show a complete victory over Egypt. And even though we had the plagues, and even though we had extracted 99, or I don't know, I don't have a number, 95, 85, 75, I'm not quite sure, of the sparks of Egypt, we hadn't taken everything. There were still Egyptians who had taken their cattle in during the plagues. There were still Egyptians who had horses that could drive chariots. There was still stuff left in Egypt. Stuff, when I say stuff, I mean spiritual residue, something left. And all of this, as I've said before, while we're fighting a war now for our existence, and we've got enemies and we defeat them, and they still have some left. And if you think of a virus, if you take antibiotics and you stop your antibiotics mid-course, then there's still some of the bacteria left, not a virus, because antibiotics don't treat viruses, they treat bacteria. But if you still have some bacteria, it can come back and start all over again. You got to get it all out. So there's a strategy that if they looked like they were coming back, like they had changed their mind, and then they camp in front of, and we're going to read here, they camped in front of Baal Tzafon, which is a Avodah Zorah, the only Avodah Zorah that was sort of left standing in the Egyptian arsenal of Avodah Zorahs. If it looked like they had changed their mind, if it looked like they were camping in front of this Avodah Zorah, then Pharaoh could think, you know what? And we also know that Pharaoh was thinking he's changing his mind. How come he let them go? And the Meforshim said that Pharaoh had mixed feelings. Should he let them go? Should he chase after them, or shouldn't he? And when they left, they had officers of Pharaoh who accompanied them on their journey. And after 3 days, they were supposed to go back to Egypt, but they didn't. And the officers said, hang on, you were given permission to go for 3 days. Now you're supposed to go back. And then they said, well, we're not going back. And so the officers then rode back to Pharaoh and said, the Jews aren't going back. They changed their mind. So there's all this like political intrigue. He let them go, but now they're not coming back. And so Hashem guides them to go backwards, which in a way is a provocation for Pharaoh to come and think that they're vulnerable and ambivalent. And so then he thinks to attack them. But really, Hashem had told Moshe, this is a setup because I want them to attack you. And when they attack you, then you're going to see how powerful I am, because then they're going to be completely destroyed. So it's a whole kind of play to bring Paro out so that he attacks them and then they get defeated. So let's just look at it. So Pharaoh will say about the Yisraelim, they trapped and the desert is closed on them. And then it says, Hashem says, I'm going to make Pharaoh stubborn, and I'm going to make sure that he chases after you. So even if he's not sure if he should or he shouldn't, I'm going to make sure that his heart gets hardened and he's going to pursue the Yidden. And then this is the whole point. I will be glorified through Pharaoh and his whole army, and the Mitzrim will finally recognize that I am God. And it's not just the Mitzrim, but it's the Yidden as well. So when the king of Egypt was told that the people have fled, this is by the officers that were accompanying the Yidden of Pharaoh, then he said, okay, why did we send them away? And it also said that the Yidden took all that silver and gold from the Mitzrim, supposedly on loan, and then many of the Mitzrim who joined Pharaoh and his army were like, hey, they borrowed that stuff from us. They didn't return it to us. Now we're motivated to go and attack them because what kind of business is that? So he got a large army, all the people and the horses that hadn't been killed in the plagues. And he had his chariots and 600 choice chariots and officers and everything. And they went and they thought they were going to have moments of glory, so they decorated their chariots with gold and silver and jewels and all of that. So it gets very dramatic. So then they all kind of chasing and coming, and they all over here, and they next to a place called Pi HaCherut, which is really the beginning of their freedom, the entrance, the mouth of freedom is this place, Pi HaCherut, Cherut being freedom and liberation. And now Pharaoh is coming near, and it says the Bnei Israel looked up, and what did they see? Uparo hikriv v'yisu Bnei Israel et anehem v'hine Mitzrayim. And it says, behold, here is Mitzrayim. And the Meforshim say that they actually saw the Malach of Egypt kind of with Egypt. I guess they were able to see such things, but they felt like very frightened. And they cry out to Hashem and they say, weren't there enough graves in Egypt? What is this that you have done? What is this that you have done to us? And we should have stayed in Egypt. And Moshe says, have no fear, stand firm and witness the deliverance that Hashem will perform for you today. For the Mitzrim who you have seen today, you will never see again. Hashem will do battle for you, and you are to remain silent. So in this moment, we know that there's all different reactions that the Yidden had. That in the Chumash, it doesn't really show you all the different options. Let's just see here. It doesn't show you all the different options, but we know that we had all these different groups of people of saying, what are we going to do? And so we have these different options, and then Moshe tells them to not to worry, that basically everything is going to be okay. So let me just I want to make sure that I'm reading it out to you in the right way. Okay. 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 So here. So this is the next part is really interesting, and there's a beautiful essay by Rabbi Pinson on this part. So Hashem says to Moshe, why are you crying out to me? Speak to the Bnei Israel and let them journey forth. Rabbi Pinson gives such a deep commentary on this verse. So I'll read it in Hebrew. Vayome Hashem el Moshe, ma titzak elai, daber el Bnei Israel v'yisau. Why are you crying out to me? So let's look at, if we look at the essay from Rabbi Pinson, I think I want to share with you. So they left in great haste, and now they're being chased by the Egyptian oppressors who were approaching behind them, and they're having no means of escape, and they have a spirit of hopelessness, and they're crying out to Moshe, and they're saying, right, what we saw, weren't there graves? Why did you have to bring us here? And then Hashem says to Moshe, why are you crying out to me? Speak to the Bnei Israel and let them travel forward. Hearing this striking message, they realize that even the time for crying has passed. Of course, through the power of crying out, Hashem had heard their prayers, and the process of redemption had begun, and they groaned, and Hashem had heard their groan. However, as they stand there, they are already liberated. They're a liberated people. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells them that even their work of praying is complete. Now they are instructed to take an actual physical step into their freedom. Now, this is really important, and it's very, very powerful, because I was living in Crown Heights, and I lived in Crown Heights when the Rebbe was alive, and I lived in Crown Heights for 8 years, hearing over and over and over again, the Rebbe would give sichos on Shabbos in Yiddish, which I couldn't understand. And then right after Shabbos, Rabbi Majeski and other people would be translating the sichos, and they were teaching them on Motzei Shabbos. You could go on Motzei Shabbos and hear what the Rebbe had said that Shabbos in Yiddish. And the Rebbe said 1,000,000 times. The buttons have already been polished. Everything that needs to be done for the Geula to happen has already happened. All you have to do is open your eyes. All you have to do is just makabel Pnei Mashiach. All the work has been done. And that's what this essay is about. That Rabbi Pinson is saying that when Hashem is saying, why are you crying out to me? You don't need anything else to happen. You're already liberated. You're already saved. The work has been done. Even this thing that you don't even have to pray. You got what you were praying for. You don't have to do anything. Just go ahead. Just, you're on your way to Har Sinai. Just keep going. Don't stop. Don't get confused and get all confused. Now they are instructed to take an actual physical step into their freedom. When they do take that first step forward into the raging sea, it miraculously parts. The pangs of birth, beginning with the 10 plagues, are over, and Klal Yisrael can finally be pushed through this watery birth canal. They can finally be birthed as a people, and they can prepare to receive the Torah and begin their journey towards the promised land. This is so incredibly powerful, because we've been told now that we are in a time of redemption, that we are in messianic times. I mean, if anybody heard the speech and the press conference yesterday, I mean, it's miraculous things are going on all the time. We can carry on thinking, oi, Mashiach should come, you know, what are we going to do? Mashiach hasn't come. But really, things are going on right now. We can think to ourselves, let's say, oi, I had such a terrible childhood. Oi, I have so many limitations on myself. I can't possibly be successful in this. Oi, I'll never be happy, or I'll never be this, or I'll never be that. And Moshe is almost saying, like, you can do anything you want. The only thing that's standing in your way is the limitations on your own mind, saying to you that you're still in Mitzrayim. You're not. You're already in messianic times. Live as if you've already been redeemed. In every generation, a person must regard himself as if he himself had gone out of Egypt. On one level, this means that when recalling the Exodus from Egypt thousands of years ago, we should envision our own lives as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu has taken us in our generation out of Mitzrayim. Remembering Yetziat Mitzrayim forces our attention on all the multitudes of redemption of Klal Yisrael from all the exiles. In every generation, it means not only every generation, but every day. On every day, it should be as if you've gone out of Egypt. And also this famous comment from one of the Rebbes of Lubavitch, I can't remember which one it is, maybe Dovbe, Lechatchila Ariba. Lechatchila Ariba, Yaakov could tell me maybe which Rebbe it is, because I can't remember.
I'm not sure. I think it was a Tzemach Tzedek, but I could be wrong. I could be mistaken.
Okay, maybe it was the Tzemach Tzedek.
I'll look it up. Yeah.
Lechatchila Ariba means, and the way they always explain it is, many people say when you come to an obstacle, you should try to go around it. If you can't go around it, then try to go over it. I say, said this particular Rebbe, from the beginning, just go right over it. What does it mean? Lechatchila ariba, from the beginning, right over the obstacle. I'm interpreting that to mean, in your head, imagine that the obstacle doesn't even exist. That's messianic thinking. When you imagine you come to an obstacle, you don't think about the obstacle. You only think about your inherent power, because you're attached to Hashem, to just transcend the obstacles that come in your way. When you live in that way, then that's the waters parting, the doors opening, and the path towards your freedom being paved. We need to dream, aspire, imagine, and yearn to reach higher and deeper levels of spirituality and material success. Yet at some point, we must begin to start living as if our spiritual and physical goals have been reached. We should begin living as if the miracle we are praying for has already occurred. This is living as if. This is living in a messianic consciousness. This is living redeemed, living free. So Rabbi Pinson spells it out. He says, step into the bigger possibility. Act and speak as if you have already arrived, and then make it real by stepping into it. And he says, these are the 4 stages of becoming free. Turn away from your negative story, whatever it is. Do not view the current situation of constriction or confinement as fixed or permanent. Second, one needs to believe in the possibility of change, accept the possibility of a miracle, and generate faith in the ability to become part of that miracle. Third, visualize the new reality and imagine how it will feel to be in that state. And fourth, take initiative, make the first move, and plunge into positive action. Take the step into the sea. And all of that from Hashem saying to Moshe, why are you crying to me? Speak to the Bnei Israel and let them go ahead. Let them journey forth. It's like that joke of the man who was in a flood, and he went onto the roof of his house and he keeps praying to Hashem, please save me, send me a saving. And a helicopter comes and says, I've come to take you. And the guy says, no, can't go. I'm waiting. He sends him a boat. He says, no, I can't go in the boat. I'm waiting for God. Eventually he drowns after a helicopter, boat, I don't know, parachute.
Right.
And then he goes to Shemaim and he says to Hashem, why didn't you save me? And Hashem says, I sent you all these savings, but you didn't see that they were saving. Okay, so let's carry on because I have more things to share. So I think that was very beautiful from Rabbi Pinson on this. So as for you now, he says to Moshe, take up your staff raise your arm above the sea and split it, and the Bnei Israel will go into the midst of the sea on dry land. Okay. And then I'm going to make the Egyptians stubborn. I'm going to be glorified. Everyone will know that I'm Hashem. And so that's what happened. Moshe raised his arm over the sea. Hashem drove back the sea with a powerful east wind. And the Bnei Israel went into the middle of the sea on dry land. There was a wall. It was this complete negation of nature. And we know Pharaoh's horses and chariots, everything, they pursued them into the middle of the sea. And then during the morning watch, Hashem looked down upon the camp of Mitzrayim, the pillar of fire and the clouds, and he threw the camp of the Mitzrayim into confusion. And then he took the wheels of the chariots, and the Egyptians said, let us free. Hashem is fighting for them. And then we're going to come to another part that's very special. So let's go on to the fourth reading. And then Hashem said, raise your arm over the sea so that the water will revert back to its normal state, covering the Bnei Israel, covering the Egyptians, their chariots and their horsemen. Moshe raised his arm and the sea came back. And Hashem, there was, all the things, and the Pharaoh's whole army, none of them survived. The Bnei Israel were on dry land. And thus it says, Hashem rescued Bnei Israel from Egypt. Egypt saw the Mitzrayim lying there. And now this is the part that I want to read here. So coming to Pasuk 31. Does somebody want to read it in English?
You know what? I
We
don't know
don't
if you
have it.
realize you haven't really changed the screen, the
We're
work.
only up to 22.
Yeah, you haven't really been moving it along the whole time. I didn't want to say anything because,
Okay.
yeah, I realized how much I rely on seeing the text.
Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back. I don't know what happened. Sorry. Let's go back. Let's go back. Beshallach. I don't know why it froze, but
Yeah, it froze. That's what it
Yeah, a long time ago.
okay, so let's come over here. It's not going away from yeah. Do you see it now?
No.
Really?
I mean, it's showing up, but it's not
Okay,
where you're up to.
let me change it. Stop share, start share. Do you see it
now
now?
it is.
Okay. Does somebody want to read 31?
When Israel saw the mighty arm that God had exercised against the Egyptians, the people stood in awe of God. They believed in God and in his servant Moses.
Okay, so when the people saw the mighty arm that Hashem had exercised against the Mitzrayim, they stood in awe. They believed in Hashem and his servant Moshe. And what happened right after that? Read Pasuk 1.
Then Moses and the Israelites sang this song to God. They said as follows, I will sing to God, for he is exalted beyond any other exalted being. He cast both horse and rider into the sea.
Okay, so now we come to beautiful Sfas Emes. So the Sfas Emes says that the whole point of everything they went through was for this line, that everything they went through in Mitzrayim, everything they went through was for them to get to this point where it says they believed in Hashem and they believed in Moshe. And like, how come they didn't believe before? Somehow the splitting of the sea was a level of, I mean, we could say that all of the plagues, we're hearing you reading, sorry.
Because it's very special. No, those are the special lines.
Right, right.
So
Let me see if I can make it a little bigger.
sorry,
I guess when they saw them
very
dead,
special.
they knew they weren't a threat.
Yeah. So the Sfas Emes says that let me read it to you. So there's a question. There's certain things that when you're davening, if you leave certain words out of your davening, you have to repeat your davening. And there are other things that if you don't say them, you don't have to repeat. So I'm just going to start reading here. So in the Midrash, it says, one who's saying Shema is obligated to mention the splitting of the sea. That's part of Shema. If one does not mention it, however, the prayer does not have to be repeated. But if the person has not mentioned the exodus from Egypt, they have to say the prayer again. So when it comes to Shema, if you leave out the part that's mentioning exodus of Egypt, you've got to say it again. But there's also the splitting of the sea. Why does this have to be mentioned? Because that is when they came to have faith in God. As the verse said, they believed in God and in his servant Moshe. By the power of this faith, they were able to sing with the Shekhinah dwelling upon them. The Midrash says this is the first time in the Torah that we have a song of thanks to God. And it says, how come we didn't have songs before? Abraham Avinu was thrown into the fiery furnace. He came out. He didn't sing a song. This one had this thing happen. This one had that thing happening. Nobody sang a song. But now they're able to sing with the Shekhinah dwelling upon them. And just as they purified their hearts by faith and then sang, so too does any person coming to pray first have to purify the heart, and then they can begin to pray.
That's a good reason to do some readings beforehand. Before I daven, I have all these readings I do.
Yes, so I was.
Wow.
Kabbalah of the month, for example.
Yes, thank you for saying that. So the Sfat Emes immediately brings it to the personal level. And he's saying just like they had to have this arousal and this kind of very inspirational moment that brought them to singing, so too, in order for us to daven, we also have to purify the heart, and we have to go to some process that enables us to open our heart and open our mouth and come to this place of singing. And they put this big word here, as, and then they were able to sing. The then, as, then sang Moshe and the Bnei Israel, then means that at this moment, the chief purpose of redemption had been revealed. That everything in the whole oppression, really, the whole experience in Mitzrayim, what the Sfas Emes calls the iron furnace in which they were made pure, that they became instruments for song, was in the iron furnace of Mitzrayim. That the whole experience of being in Mitzrayim was so that they could come and sing their appreciation and give testimony to their faith that they really saw this action of Hashem in such incredible light. Now, there's something which I'm going to explain, but I don't understand fully myself. So you'll have to maybe help me explain. The reason why the Avot never sang a song before is that it says that when Moshe started this whole experience with the redemption of the Yidden in Egypt, he said to Hashem, what name should I say is, what's your name? Who are you? And Hashem said, I revealed myself to the Avot as Kael Shaddai, but the name Havaya I did not reveal to them. So Kael Shaddai the word Shaddai means die. Like if you're an Israeli mom and your child is misbehaving and you want to say stop, you say die, stop already, die, enough, die. So Kael Shaddai is the name of God. When God is creating something, or when God was creating something, he has this creative energy, and it goes, and then God says stop. And when he says stop, that's the vessel. What's the vessel? It's a stone, it's a octopus, it's a tree. But at some point, there's that part of God that's saying, die. He's giving definition to things, right? Die means enough. So that's the creative God. That's the God that the Avot knew. The God that said, my energy, my creativity, my manifestation, it has boundaries, it ends here, things, the light, the flow of energy, it stops here. That's the God, Kael Shaddai. But the God that gets revealed to the Yidden that are going to go through the process of all the plagues, that's Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, Havaya. That's the name above all limitations. Anything that Hashem wants to take the planets and turn them upside down. Light is dark, dark is night. Choshech comes, kinim, plagues, water. Everything gets turned upside down. But somehow in the Kriyas Yam Suf, it's even more so. Now I can't. This is the part that I'm not quite sure what it is about the Kriyas Yam Suf that is even more than all the plagues, except that the enemy is completely obliterated. That's the only part. It's not that the nature is transcended so much more, as I understand it. Maybe I'm missing something, than the plagues, but the enemy is completely annihilated, 100%. And so that's why when they get to this moment, it's nature completely turned upside down, water standing up in walls, negating the nature of water, and also the enemy completely, totally eradicated and annihilated. So this, and then it says that the point is that Israel, that means all of us, Bnei Israel, was created to bear witness to the blessed Creator. This is our whole purpose in being created. This is our whole purpose in being a nation. This is our whole purpose of our existence, is to bear witness to the blessed Creator. And it says in Isaiah, one of our prophets, this folk that I have formed, that they tell my praise. That's really why we're here and what we're supposed to do. So the Egyptian bondage was an iron furnace in which they were made to serve as proper instruments for song and hymns before Hashem. When redemption was complete, their mouths opened and they began to sing. Therefore, they had faith. So I think it's not just the negation, like I said, of the nature, but the redemption being complete with their enemies being utterly annihilated. When Israel came forth from Egypt, they did not understand what value there had been in exile. But then as they became God's instruments, they came to understand. And then the Sfat Emes quotes this very interesting pasuk. It says, my dove in the cleft of the rock, in the secret of the cliff, show me your appearance, let me hear your voice. So we like the dove, and that voice of prayer is almost hidden inside of us, and we hidden like in the cleft of the rock. But then when we motivated and we inspired, then the dove sings praises to Hashem. Let me hear your voice. They were in those clefts, hidden among the rocks, so that their voices might come forth and be heard. And then the Sfas Emes ends, and he says, some of this is true each day as well. A person has to set this right on a daily basis. Our urges threaten to overpower us, making us like the dove in the cleft of the rock. We then have to purify our hearts in order to recite Shema and say our prayers. So, so that's really Parsha Beshallach, that we come out and our enemies are destroyed and we sing praise. And then each of us, each and every day, we have our own little battle against our own little pharaohs, our own little army chasing us, our own little armies pursuing us, and then our own effort at seeing our capacity. Here, Hashem fought the war for them. Hashem defeated, Hashem, did miracles for them. But from the part that we got from Dov Ber Pinson,
Oops.
That's interesting, little hamburgers.
It was an accident.
I guess she's
so
hungry.
cute.
Sorry.
I never saw little hamburgers.
That was cute.
That was
Rachel, the only reason I went to because I saw your hand up. I don't know
right.
if you realized you put your hand up.
Yeah, I was thinking who put their hand up like I guess it's like me.
It's you. So then I was trying to look and see what was going on there, and I just was
Oh.
looking at all the different.
Right. I realized that there was a hand up and I actually didn't realize it was mine. I was like thinking, who's got their hand up? But anyway, so on the one hand, we created to sing praise, this beautiful essay from the Sfas Emes. On the other hand, this idea that we got from Dov Ber Pinson that we're standing at some precipice and we're saying, help me, and Hashem saying, I helped you already. Now it's up to you. You just have to trust that you've got everything you need to be the person you want to be. Go forth and, walk into the Yam Suf and it's going to open for you. So I think that was very beautiful. And then there's also the idea that, just to end, that when we came out of Mitzrayim, the sea split. When we entered into Eretz Israel, the Jordan, they had to cross the Jordan, and
It split
Jordan.
also, right?
By the way, when they came out of Mitzrayim and they crossed the Yam Suf, it says the Yam Suf split into 12 pathways. 12 pathways, one pathway for every tribe. Then when they entered into Eretz Israel, they crossed the Yarden, they crossed across the Jordan. And it says that the way that they crossed, the Kohanim advanced, holding the ark, and then the Jordan River split. And it split, it says that one side, there was a wall, and on the other side, the water kept on flowing, but in the middle, there was a pathway that they could walk. So it didn't split into a multitude amount of places. It just split in one path. But it says that in the future, when Mashiach comes, there's going to be another splitting. The Euphrates is going to split, and it's going to split into 7 paths. So the Yam Suf split into 12 for the Shvatim, but the Euphrates is going to split into 7, and the 7's connected to the 4 mothers and the 3 fathers, or the 7 emotional midot. And that splitting, what's all this business about splitting? Like, why every time we kind of moving from one level to another, there's some kind of splitting?
Like splitting an atom. The energy that comes with it, like splitting an atom.
That's interesting.
We're splitting off from the one thing to the next thing.
That's also interesting. the answer that I saw was that the splitting is always connected to the fact that there's water covering the floor of whatever the water is covering. So when the Yam Suf splits, you've got water covering the ocean bed. And when the other rivers split, what happens is that the water kind of opens, and then what's revealed is the floor, the ocean floor, the riverbed underneath the water, that gets revealed. So this is a metaphor for something. Can someone explain to me what the metaphor is? So usually the floor of the ocean is covered, but with the Yam Suf splitting, what was usually covered became revealed, and the water parted, and then the floor of the ocean or the river is revealed. So what could this be a metaphor for?
Whatever will be revealed when Mashiach comes.
Yes, yes, that tell me more. What is the what?
Revealed, well, firstly, that Hashem is the whole one true, and all the nations of the world will know it, and in all the Jews, and will be revealed the mysteries, I guess, of
Yeah,
things will be
exactly.
revealed that we want to find out, will all
Right.
be revealed at the time of.
Right. So exactly. So the idea is that that all of these splittings are moments when what is usually what is usually hidden becomes revealed, and these revelations of godliness in a very revealing way. So that's why they say by Yam Suf, even a maidservant had nevuah like a prophet.
It's so ironic because they predict in Moshiach times that the earth will be filled with the knowledge of God as the waters cover the sea. So it's like
Right.
the opposite in a way, but I mean that's the only reference I've heard that's like the opposite of what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's the opposite. So
Yeah.
so yes, the knowledge of God will spread like the waters cover, but on the other hand, there's this other experience of revelation where what's not
Yeah.
covered becomes revealed, and we see what we don't usually see. So all of
Right.
these
Yeah.
splittings of the Yidden crossing the Yam Suf, getting away from Pharaoh in Yetziat Mitzrayim, entering into Eretz Israel, or one day when Mashiach comes, I'm not sure from where we're going to be going and where we're going to be coming from. It says that the seven splits also refer to Yidden coming from 7 nations where they were exiled to, and somehow they all crossing over the Euphrates.
Like
That,
the 7 continents,
say that again?
like the 7 continents, the 7 nations, does that?
I don't know about 7 continents, but just 7, could be Syria, Lebanon, who knows?
Yeah.
But each time there's this kind of new level, like someone said, we're going to another level. There's this experience of revelation as well.
Bracha,
Yes,
first of all, welcome back.
thank you.
Second of all, I don't know if you're sitting by a fireplace, but your face is glowing, like glowing.
Well,
I can't explain it. I hope your trip was amazing. The 4 points were definitely the most awesome part of this year. It was so good. Such a great year.
which 4 points?
The turn away from the negative story, believing.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Love it. I'm gonna put that on a sign. And I haven't done a sign in a long
Well,
time.
that was from Dorfe Pinson, so I
Yeah,
can't claim that.
yeah, you're really big into them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to excuse myself. Thank you so much.
We're done. We're done.
Okay.
We're done.
It was
So,
awesome.
Have a good night.
all right. So,
Thank you.
yeah, everyone should be
Thank you.
a
Look, see
time
you
of
next week.
Geulah and redemption,
I mean,
Amen.
marching forth.
is this the Shabbos that we stand up when they sing that part?
Yeah,
As Yashir?
so, Shir Hayam, yes. And I think we also give things to the birds.
Like we
Oh,
put
right.
Pasha out for the
Beshallach,
birds
right? We
or
can feed the
something. Yeah.
birds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We feed them on Shabbos or
Like
Yeah,
you put it out Erev Shabbos so that
Erev
they have it for
Shabbos? Okay.
Shabbos.
Right, Erev Shabbos. Okay.
Okay, ladies, thank
Okay,
you
Thank
so
you,
thank
much.
you.
Bracha. Thank you
Okay.
so
Thank you
much.
so
Thanks,
much. It was
everybody.
wonderful.
Night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Class.
Night,
Thank you,
everybody.
Bracha.
All the
Bye.
best. All the best. Good night.